to everybody, and thank you for joining this conference. You know, maybe most of you have been listening to our colleagues during the last days, and obviously we all share a common job, which is to make sense of all the trends, all the weak signals and disruption that we can observe during our job. And then once we have all this, what we need definitely is to design a big picture, to get a systemic vision of what's happening. And right now, most of us really wonder where we are. So I would like to walk you through a journey in 3 stages. The first one is to move towards the description of the grand transition, which is, let's say, the current big picture, the general context. The second stage will be to try to understand, well, where we are about to move. A new model of development that is emerging and that we used to call, at least here at Projective, X.0. And the first stage will be to try to understand and answer maybe this questioning that I think that you have all in our minds. Will this crisis improve the world, make it better? Well, let's see. So first of all, let's go through, we try to move a little bit and show you what we call the Great Transition. The Great Transition, as you can see on this spreadsheet, is the fact that right now we have 2 worlds. One is the world 1.0, and this world has been ours for the last, let's say, 10,000 years. And he has his own dynamics and forces of progress that moved us towards the place where we are right now. During this time, it has been kind of continuous progress, of course, with rise and falls, but still, we have been progressing. What we can see is that arriving around the turn of the 19th century, 20th century, we have seen that these forces of change have produced more troubles than progress, like verticalization, like inequities, pollutions, and so on, you name it, you know. And since then, it seems that this world is kind of falling apart. And a new world seems to emerge. This new world that we called here 2.0, because it's easier, this new world it's just like boiling down, coming from the center of Earth and trying to emerge. Of course, the old world does not want to die, and so it's trying to prevent the new one to happen, to emerge. And of course, the new one is just trying his best to survive. So this is where we are now, inside of this mix of so many forces driving us in different pathways and very sometimes paradoxical pathways. So we are here, just between, you see, there's 2 main sleep parts, and it's kind of a sea. And we are trying to cross this sea. We are sailing through it. We used to call this sea VUCA. VUCA, you know this, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And VUCA is the best word we have to characterize the turbulences, the turmoil of this sea, which is a sea of change. This sea is trying to bring us to the so-called post-normal times. Why post-normal? Because normality has been left behind with the world 1.0. Normality was the way the world 1.0 was doing and was developing itself. So now it's something completely new. This is the first thing, and we have really to understand that this great transition is is what is driving us right now on a very, very long term. In this VUCA, 4 main disruptions are like waves trying to either to push us forward or, as the contrary, to draw us down. The first one, okay, you know it, disruptive technologies. Most of them are based on artificial intelligence, and they are really new means, very powerful means to help us to leapfrog. But also, as you know, they are full of risk and dangers. The second disruption is the disruption of our own worldview. At least for the last century, the main value was very self-centered. It was about money, it was about celebrity, about recognition, and it was really the basics of individualism. Now we can see that more and more people are moving towards new forms of values or new values, not only based on the person itself, self-centered, but based exactly on the opposite, on the way you are able to deal with others, the care, or the soft skills that will help you to deal with people, to have a relationship with them, with empathy, maybe with love, for sure, trust, and will to cooperate together and to be together. So we can see this obviously developing itself right now. The third disruption is kind of wake-up call about the situation of Earth. I mean, we have climate change, we have still hunger, and we will have more and more people on Earth. 2 billion people are about to come from now on to 2050. We will have issues in water and food and, of course, energies and access. So clearly, we are beginning to understand that we have developed a very predatory economy, and that this economy is no longer sustainable. We cannot continue to use Earth as if it would be infinite, while we know that our resources are finite. And the fourth disruption is maybe the most interesting, maybe the most invisible. It is the fact that we are beginning to understand that we are not only human beings, but that we have to become human, to be human. And we are just about to wonder, what does it mean to be human? In front of machine and in front of artificial intelligence, what does it mean to be human? When we are creating so much inequity in the world, what does it take to be human? So there is really something happening in this field of thinking about what we are, who we are, and how we can move forward and cross this VUCA. So many people right now are feeling really confused, perplexed, or disoriented. They don't know exactly what to do. They just understand that they do not feel comfortable with the world we are currently living in. And they begin to act. Very micro action, I would say, very numerous little things, little actions like moving back from big cities to peri-urbanization, like investing herself or himself in solidarity, for example. Well, many other things like permaculture, for example. People trying to develop an agriculture based on nature. Well, if we try to put all this together, as I told earlier, Well, we can see a big picture beginning to emerge from all these micro actions. What we can see is that there is definitely a will to reach a double goal. The first one is to become human-centric. Considering the rise of the machine and the rise of automation, we have definitely to think about what does it mean to be human and how we can cope with the fact that our current economy is looking for more competition, for more investment, more money, and at the same time, what is the goal of this economy if not to make people happier? So you see that you have this kind of very difficult position that is right now undergoing and beginning to emerge through the layers of information and actions as well. So human-centric. The second goal is exactly the same, I would say, almost the reverse. It is being nature-centric. You know that for centuries, we have opposed nature and culture. Culture is the world of human, nature is the world of the nature. And right now we are thinking that it has been completely stupid to oppose them, because right now human being cannot live outside this world. Even if we can send him to Mars or to Titan or whatsoever, we have absolutely no idea if we are able to survive once we are out of this cradle. So we have to take care of this cradle, at least during the time that we will need to find a way to the stars. But right now, this is our world and we cannot live without it. So we have to reconciliate nature and culture, and we have to reconciliate this double aspect of our socio-economy, which is human being and nature. So this is this double goal of this system. Then we have two game changers that are really today, I would say, our best tools to succeed to reach these goals, but at the same time, our major challenges, the ones that can really make us fail. One is exponentiality. Exponentiality is what happens when you introduce digitalization. You change your way of doing. If you take as an example the industry X.0, you can see that you have more and more machine automation, and you have now what we call the unicorns, which are companies with a very, very high rate of development and making money. But exponentiality is also the form of the curve of the dynamics of demographics, of the consumptions of the Earth's resources. I mean, exponential is really what is happening right now in terms of the dynamics of our world. And the second game changer is planetization. Planetization is the fact that we begin to understand that globalization is something, yes, for sure, and for the very beginning of the human history, we have been trying to move across the globe and try to become global. But at the same time, not everything can become global. And obviously, with the current crisis, it's becoming obvious that we need to produce some major strategic object right here in the territory. And so this again, it's about kind of paradox, the same paradox that we had to solve between nature and culture. Here the paradox is between globalization and territorialization. I mean, the fact to develop proximity in terms of economy, in terms of community, in terms of processes, local processes, for example, like a subsidiarity, for example. And it's really important to try to develop this planetary approach of the territory. Clearly, Africa will not develop itself like Europe or North America develop themselves. So we have definitely to invent new ways to help a territory to cope with globalization without destroying itself. And I think that's the reason why planetization can really help to change our way of doing and trading and producing. But in the same time, if we are not able to catch this, we can see kind of fragmentation of what is happening today, and this fragmentation will amplify itself. I mean, fragmentation of the trade, protectionism, and all those forces that are trying to fight against globalization. So as you see, this very systemic transformation as all the functionalities of a new model of development. It's full of challenges, it's full of paradoxes, but in the same time, we can definitely move ahead if we all use it and try to build it. And already many of us are doing so. Now, the first stage of this journey is quite simple. Is it time to leapfrog to X.0? Is it time to massively try to embark on this new model? Or will we continue to slowly continue to move from this world 1.0 to the world 2.0? And even more slowly from the current dominant paradigm to this X.0 model. So, well, that's really an issue. And of course, if I ask you, I guess, well, do you want a new economy, an economy with ethical rules, with a better balance between global and local, for example, and with a better empowerment of everybody willing to create his her own enterprise or company and so on, just to job? Yes, of course, everybody should say yes. And of course, if I ask you, what about a new governance? Something that would bring us more flexibility and adaptation and help to rationalize our resources and the use of our resources with mutualization and so on. A governance that would be fact-based, for example. And I think there is some issues there. Also in which justice and ethics would be important. Look at, for example, the climate justice. Collective intelligence would also be part of it as a way to try to more different collaboration and consultation and so on. And finally, with a real devolution of power to the right level of subsidiarity that are able to solve the problems. So if I ask you, do you want this new governance? Sure. I guess that most of you will say, oh yeah, yes, it sounds wonderful, let's go. Yeah, but at the same time, we all know that it's not enough to say, yes, that's where we want to go. Well, it is the first thing to do, but it's not enough. The second thing is, okay, what will be the trigger to accelerate the transformation in this case, or just to create it, the kind of shock that can push you ahead? Well, just for 1 minute, let's try to think about another kind of zoopathology that happened in the year 96. Yeah, it was 1996 to 2001 or 2, if I remember well, and it was the mad cow disease. The mad cow disease made only, I think, between 200 and 300 deaths. So it was not really important. I mean, a death still, but it is not huge numbers like right now. But it lasted longer, at least I hope, because it lasted at least 7 or 8 years. So it was a very long time. Well, was it a trigger? Yes, for sure. For example, we completely changed our way to develop traceability for our food, which was something really new at the time. We developed different way to nurture the cattle and to provide better quality of feed and different kind of feed for animals. And finally, we have seen the rise of veganism since its time. So definitely, we can see some long-lasting consequences, impacts of this of such a crisis. Now the thing is a little bit different today, because we already paid a huge toll to the coronavirus disease, 86,000 deaths. So it's a huge price, but it's a price for what? We can expect from this crisis better healthcare policies, new strategic priorities, relocalization of key production, better telecommuting conditions, sanctions against rogue states, and so on, you name it. Of course, as a futurist, at the hardcore of my daydreaming, I would say, we have the development of an anticipatory culture, from children to the heads of states, with the development of science fiction, future literacy, future studies, foresight, and so on. I mean, from the most popular one to the most specific one and the most specialized. But definitely we need to change our way to perceive the future and to anticipate it. And I hope this maybe would be one of the consequences of this time. So is it time to leapfrog? Yes, for sure. It's time. It is even more than time. I mean, it's very urgent. It's very pressing time, because of all the challenges posed by demographics and by climate change and by the loss of biodiversity and the shortage of water and so on. Yet it is not enough to say it's time. What can we do? We know that some impact, some new policies will come out from this situation. But we also know that it is not sufficient. If you want to really leapfrog to X.0, it means that we have to stop to continue to think like we did during all this very, very long time of the world 1.0. Indeed, the real time is a time to rethink, reinvent, rebuild, doing really something new. And it is not enough just to put some bandage on a wooden leg. We have definitely to do more. Maybe my dream would be that the next year we would celebrate this crisis with 1 month on all Earth that would be dedicated to stay at home, take time to think, take time to reconnect, take time for develop more or greater solidarity with others. Just a time to put ourselves in the condition to stop to do always the same thing and to think always in the same way and really do something new to build a very, very fresh new world. So thank you for spending this time with me. I will open the floor to questions. And before, I would like that each of you speakers or participants give a big applause to Francisco and Miguel, who have been able to create this event in a very short time and to bring all of us in the same place at the same time. And this is a really great initiative, and thank you. Thank you very much to all of you. Now let's open the floor to questions. The first question I have is, how do we pass from an economy of scarcity to an economy of abundance? Well, Jeremy Rifkin tried to answer this question. I think that maybe the first thing is energy. I mean, in the order is to find new sources of energy. Definitely, I think that hydrocarbon, oil and gas are no longer the energy we should have to continue with. Solar energy is definitely where we should concentrate our effort in terms of research and development to have a better production and better storage, of course. If we can develop solar energy, clearly we will be able to develop new dynamics, especially in countries, poor country or country in development, and begin to do something towards this economy of abundance. Yet, I mean, it's difficult for me to answer this question because I don't think that it's something that we can encompass in the very near future. I'm not sure it's a very reachable goal. Abundance is not in front of us. I mean, not before the next century, not before we can tame climate change and change completely our way to deal with it. So, well, I see that our colleague Fran maybe want to complete my answer. No? Okay. So next question is trust and transformation. What enables people to trust their leader in the turbulent world right now? What enables people to trust their leader? Well, I think that I mean, it is not because you are a leader that you have to be trusted. What I mean is, my background is political sciences, and so maybe this is the reason why I'm saying so. Some leaders are trustable people, and some leaders are not. It's not the fact to be a leader or not being a leader, it's the fact to be a good person or not a good person. I mean, if you are ethic, if you are someone with moral values, well, we can think that you are trustable. I mean, if you respect your word, if you do what you say, you are trustable. The real question, I think, is how to get leaders who are only trustable persons. That's really an issue. Another question is the US now a rogue state? What are you thinking? Well, what I'm thinking is that a rogue state is, for me, by definition, any kind of state, America or not, and America is just a state among all the other 150 something states on the planet, who have been able to store masks or medicines from tarmac in an airport somewhere in the world. This is a rogue state. When you do not respect your word and that you steal something which is not yours, you are a rogue state. When you do not respect your engagement, when you do not respect your word, you are a rogue state. Elena, hi, why are not futurists speaking about HIV pandemics anymore? Yeah. About 40 million people live with HIV, and 770 people died in AIDS-related illnesses. That's right. I just took the mad cow disease because it was easier. I mean, it was a very special period in time, and we have consequences, and we know exactly about that. For myself, I am working a lot in Africa, and if you read my last report on the development of Africa, you will see that I'm talking about HIV and the current huge problem, especially the fact that the disease is coming back again and is rising again in Africa, and this is really an issue. Another question from Martin is, which types of model will work in X.0 and be sufficiently strong to convince the current powers that to embrace change instead of trying to return to the past state? Well, I do not have all the answers. What I know is that the X.0 model is my main research for, it has been my main research for the last 3 years now, and will be for the next 10 years, which are my last years of research. And I think that I definitely will need this decade to try to find more about the X.0. If you're interested, I can post later on or give to Fran the reference to the report I just published for the Kingdom of Morocco on this model of development, and you will see, at least for Morocco, also for some other countries, many examples of what is working. So I don't think that everything is working. I think that according to the context, some best practices can be useful more than others. How to convince our power? I mean, I think that the power is us. If we are convinced, then we will convince the other, and then we will convince the leaders as well. So many leaders I'm advising as a futurist are already convinced that this model is the most interesting for them. Now we have to work hard to develop the how-to, and this is the real point: how to move from the current state of our ways of processing things to a completely new one. We have to work on this, definitely. Hannah, what do you do in order to make people aware and embrace this future thinking approach and rethink about the world we are living in? Well, what I do myself, first of all, I research, because this is part of my job as a futurist. So I research for my client, and again, I would like to thank one of my main clients, my most long-lasting client, which is the Royal Institute of Strategic Studies of the Kingdom of Morocco, because they sustain a part of my research and give me the opportunity to work with them and try to develop research bringing more clarity, I would say, and maybe more to attract the attention of leaders on best practices in this area. For example, right now we are working on the future of ocean, and so it's really a way to rethink our relation to ocean and how to cope with ocean, considering that the situation of ocean is really awful, and it is in a very, very great danger. So researching would be the first answer. The second answer is training. With my partner in Yonders, we are doing a lot of training, and this training is especially to develop the X.0 attitude, which is how to rethink, how to retrain, how to re-educate people, not in the way we invented a new word called eduning. Eduning is about in the same time for the same person teaching and learning. I mean, I think it is the end of the teacher and the learner. Now we can enrich each other from our conversation and our exchanges if you have the structure to do it. And I think that this is something important to move to a second step or next step of education as well. So educate to X.0 and to future thinking. And of course, I teach I taught during almost 25 years of my life at university to train next generation of futurists. So this is also something. And right now, I'm developing a new curriculum in Morocco to have a PhD with Professor Philippe Durance in CNAM, PhD in future studies. So, well, we are doing things. I mean, I publish, of course. I work for my clients and I help them to develop the how to move forward. So, all this. In terms of creating change, what individuals have more right now than they had before? In terms of creating change, I think that everybody has a right to create change. That's what we are doing every day. Each time you are talking to someone, each time you are educating your children, each time you are working and developing new relation with your surroundings or whatsoever, you can create change. I mean, it's in the very nature of human being. A human being is able of novelty, is able of changing himself, trying to change others most of the time, unfortunately, but first of all begin to change himself. So I think we have all the right to do so. Is a democracy a sustainable solution to lead the countries in the future? Phew. I could spend hours to try to answer you. I think that democracy is just, as someone very famous said, the least bad way to govern. I'm not sure that democracy is the best. I think that none of those we have experimented during the last 3,000 years have been better. I think that still we have to invent something a little bit different. I mean, democracy supposes education. Without education, you cannot get anything good. So, you see, it's complicated. I would say that first you have to develop education, then you can develop democracy. And when you develop democracy before developing education, I'm not sure it's really efficient and useful. People have to learn to think for the community. I'm not sure it is something very spontaneous. It's really something we have to discuss for a very long time. Sorry for that. How do you conceive popularizing foresight at all levels, from lay people to decision makers, in the education sector or any form of learning programs? Well, I think that almost all my professional life for the last 30-something years, first, I have taught. I mean, in any kind of situation, professional training, university training, academic training, research training as well, even in secondary school. So I'm totally convinced that you can introduce futures thinking everywhere, at any kind of level, and especially at primary school, everywhere in the world. So I think that's the way to do it. And you have two ways to do it. The first one to train teachers to futures thinking and to show how in their own field they integrate the future. For example, in mathematics, especially with statistics, but in history, of course, in geography as well. I mean, all the disciplines we used to teach children and students as well embed a part of futures thinking. But until now, it's just tacit. I mean, no teacher would explain it very clearly, structurally, or formally. So that's what we have to do, to begin with teachers and professors, and everywhere it's possible to try to put a touch of futures thinking. Women leadership. Will women have more power in the future? Women are in the front line working now. First of all, as a futurist, my job is not to predict the future. I have absolutely no idea of what the future will be. What I know from the lessons of history is that women are not different from men. I know it's a bit strange to say so, but what I try to say is that we should stop definitely to speak in terms of male or female, but just speak in terms of human beings. During the last World War II, we have seen that the effort of war has been possible only because women were working like hell to sustain this effort. The thing is that women are not used to fight for their rights, and they do not voice up. And maybe this is what is changing right now. So they have always worked, they have always do something. Most of the time it was invisible. Now we are just to make it visible. And this is only to women to do it. It is not to men or to others. I mean, if you want the power, take it. If you don't want it, do not complain. I'm sorry, it's a bit rough, but this is what I think about this. Oh, Rosa, thanks. Oops. So Grain. One says, if you want to change the world, begin to change yourself. Yeah. I guess that we each have leadership and that we have this power to change things in and around us. One little step made by each of us will make a big step for the human being and the planet. Yeah, I share. No question, but yes. I totally share this. Is this crisis the rise of foresight studies? Oh gosh, how to conciliate people and their leaders and their studies. Oh, Frederick, this has been our fight, daily fight for, I would say, 1945 the very beginning when we formalized future studies. Future studies at that time began in the States after the World War II, and in France a little bit after, during the 47, 50 around, so some years of difference. And since then, it has been a constant fight against leaders to try to make future studies just a normal exercise of the power. During a long time in France, you had the Plan, a big institution called the Plan, which was really the place where people would think about the future and give their recommendation to the power. And at that time, we had really beautiful minds doing this, like Massé and so many great people. But then the Plan disappeared. We had, I mean, I can make the history of I cannot say it. Well, the way future studies have been institutionalized, but we have tried. We have tried hard. There is definitely something wrong in the way a leader thinks himself in the future, project him or herself in the future. I mean, for a leader, the future stop where he or she will stop to be a leader. You see? So when you are elected, it's a bit complicated. How to conciliate? Again, for me, the unique way to conciliate is to teach future studies from primary school. And when I say primary school, I said really K0 and K1. So kindergarten, from kindergarten to K12 and university. I mean, if everybody knows exactly what are future studies, what is foresight, how to use it, how to become future literate, as a real Miller like to say, well, then we can hope to reconciliate everybody around the future. How do you think the big global organizations, foundations, charities that offer grants should do once medical pandemic is over? Offer money for survival? Offer money for particular types of action models for development? What do you think should be those actions models? Of course, if I would be in charge of advising such an organization, charity or foundation or so on, first, I would always follow the Confucian principle. If someone is hungry, giving the tool to fish, not the fish itself. So this is the first thing. Help people to create their job. Help people to find a way to survive in this world in a very structural way. Of course, when people are dying, you have to save them, but this is another question. But this is the first thing, how your project can help you to survive in the future. And of course, my second criteria would be, will your project fit in this model of development X.0? I mean, if your project can reach the goals to take care of the nature and take care of human beings as well. Is your project able to not destroy potentialities or resources that we will need in the future? So this kind of thing. So I would create a set of criteria and help people to move ahead by respecting these criteria. Do you have any idea why some countries have not embraced future cities as much as others, for example, Belgium? Well, future cities is really something different. I begin to work on cities in the years, the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, and at that time, the French company for electricity had a foresight group, and they made incredibly good scenarios about the future, creating new forms of cities. And I think that still these cities are very, very useful and good tool to think the future. I don't know what is a future city. I know I know the problems a city creates, from traffic jam to pollution to anonymous position in the city, to survey whatsoever. In the same time, the city is a place when you can access education and you can access opportunities and healthcare and so on. So a city is not the worst or the best. It is the only way we have found today to live all together in the most concentrated place. Now the thing is that with the climate change, with the sea level rising, clearly it will not be possible any longer to continue to develop cities along the seas, for example, along the seashore. So we will have to do something clearly with this, and we will have to think anew what the city is, and maybe to face climate change, maybe to face the hurricanes and this kind of thing in certain parts of the world. We will have to dismantle our very huge cities and break them down in small units. So I do not know exactly, Martin, what you understood or what you wanted to say by future cities, but right now my answer is this one. Thank you, all of us, and I will try to answer you if you want to send me your questions by email, maybe projective@projective.com. So please send me and I will answer you. Thank you and have a good afternoon. Bye.